Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stellar, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about Roblox types, and we're going to talk about printing. So in the previous video we have talked about types, and we've talked about basic types, and we've talked about Roblox types. So there's a difference between those two, and I'm going to list them all again for refreshing your mind. Okay, so first of all we had basic types, which were numbers, strings, booleans, tables, functions, and nil. So these were the basic types. So next we have Roblox types, and these types, they are made for Roblox. So we have, for example, color 3, and you can find this back here in the properties of a part. Here, the color 3. It expects 3 numbers, so we're gonna talk a little bit more about that later. We have BrickColor, and we can find that here, and it's made of a string, which is the name of it, name of the color. We had vector 3, and this is also made of 3 numbers, and we can find out here, for example, at the position, but we can also find it at the size and orientation. And next we have instances, and these, if you may remember, are objects you can find here. For example, workspace, baseplate, script, spawn location, those are all instances. So basically they're just objects. And you can also find instances in the properties here in parent. It expects an object as a value for the parent. So you have to actually select an object here. So for example, baseplate, then boom, the parent is set to baseplate, and we can transition back to workspace. Other than that, we also had enum. And enum, they were, if you may remember, they were lists of items you can choose. For example, material, you have a list of materials you can choose, and you have to select one of those. So these were the types. So for Roblox types, there were obviously a lot more, which were over 30. But these ones are one of the most common ones, and we're just gonna work with those for now. So I told you about all of these types, but you don't know what to do with them yet. Well, in a different video, we're gonna actually talk about how to change certain properties so you can make your game the way you want it. But in this video for now, we're gonna talk about how to create these values, which is really important. And you have to remember it, otherwise you cannot script. So the first thing I wanna talk about is printing. So printing is a function, it's a piece of code that takes the value you put in the print and puts it here in the output. So I'm just going to show you how it works. So we just type print parentheses. You need both of them, opening and closing, and then you put in the values you want to print to the output. So for example, if we want to print numbers, you say for example 21, and then it's going to print that to the output, and we can do that by running the game simply. There you have it, it's saying 21. Don't mind this thing over here. All right, so yeah, it's simple as that. You can actually print multiple values by putting a comma, and let's do, for example, 4. Or we want to have 9, or want to have 0. Right, you can do that. Let's run it. Boom, prints it in order. Okay, but apart from numbers, we can also print strings. So the way you write strings is with quotation marks. You may remember that from the previous video. You can write them with these characters, or you can write them with these characters. Which one you like? Eventually it's gonna do the same thing. So we can say, for example, hello world. Or we can actually also put a number here, for example 85. Put here hi. And there's actually another way of writing strings, and this is actually quite useful one. So if you put 2 of these characters, so it has 2 opening ones and 2 closing ones. You can actually have text with multiple lines. So you can have, for example, here, hello. You can press enter. You can type hi, hello, how are you? And it's gonna print this on multiple lines, which is really interesting. However, you cannot do that with these ones. So if you do it like this, that's not gonna work. So yeah, just do it like that. So let's run it and see what happens. And there you go, saying hello world, 85, hi, hello, how are you? Exactly what we told it to do. Alright, now moving on, let's go to Booleans. Booleans, really simple. You either type true, or you can type false. And that's basically it. I'm not gonna test it because it's gonna just print this. Tables, we're gonna skip tables and functions for now. But you also have nil, and nil is written like this, really simple. But yeah, let's move on to Roblox types. So Roblox types. So to start with, let's start with color 3. So if you want to make a color 3 value, you gotta type color 3, and then you can press dot. And then you have 5 options here. You can either do dot new from RGB, from HSV, or to HSV, or dot from hex. And dot new, if you want to do dot new, you have to put a number between 0 and 1. If you want to have red, you gotta do 1, 0, 0. And if you want to have green, you have to do 0, 1, 0. If you want to have blue, 0, 0, 1. And that's kind of tricky to work with, so you can just click this color wheel here, and you can select any color you want. For example, this color. Boom, and it makes it for you. But this looks kind of weird because when you go to the color here, that's actually bigger numbers. So if you want to work with those numbers, you have to do color 3 dot from RGB. Then here you can choose a color from 0 to 255. And it's the same thing here. So if you want to have, let's see, this color, boom. And this kind of looks similar to this one. So that's good. You can just copy this, put it here. That's the same color. So you also have HSV. And this one is kind of weird. I haven't really worked with it. Instead of using these numbers, it's going to use these ones. But I don't really like to use HSV. So moving on, let's go to BrickColor. And BrickColor, it has fairly simple functions. So you can choose .new, for example, and then you have to put in the name of the color. So you can have, for example, crimson, all right? Yeah, you can do that. But you can also do, for example, BrickColor.red, and so it's going to do a red color. You can have white, or you can have blue, or you can do .random. It's going to do a random color. That's pretty cool stuff. And it's really simple. So let's move on to vector 3. And vector 3, it's also fairly simple. When you do dot, you can do dot new. And with this, you can put the 3 numbers you want. So for example, you can do 1, 2, 3. And you can use this value for the position, or you can use it for orientation or for the size. Those can be found here again. All right, so that's pretty simple. But there's also more things. So like you have from axis, you have from normal ID, but yeah, let's not screw with those for now because you don't really need that yet. And moving on, we have instances. So to make an instance, you do instance new, and then you put in the string, which is the name of the object. So for example, if we want to have a part, and we type in here part, and it's going to create a part for us. For now, it's not really going to put it in the workspace or anything, but we're going to talk about this in a different video, so don't worry about it for now. Last but not least, we have enum. And enum, also fairly simple. If you want to get the grass material, for example, what you do enum dot material dot grass. All right, and you can find all these enums here in view, object browser. Let's go all the way down, and all these items with these icons, these are enums. So when we go to material, for example, here you have air, concrete, and that kind of stuff, which can be used for the part or terrain. But yeah, that's basically enum, and that is how to write types and how to print. Apart from printing, there's also warn. And you might think like warning is for punishing players for doing something bad, but that's not really what warning is. Warning is actually the same as printing, except it's in orange. So notice here how printing is in white and this is in orange. That's because this thing uses warn. And it works basically the same if you put this like, if you put here like hello world or vector3.new 5 to 9. Gonna do the exact same thing, and here's the proof. There you go, same thing. And there's also actually another one, which is error, and it also basically does the same thing, except it's gonna stop the code. So if we're gonna say here you did that, yeah, that's gonna work. So let's run it. So it's gonna say the print, the warn, and it's gonna give an error saying you did bad. So if we put this here instead, let's see what happens. It only errors and it's not gonna print or warn anything else. And the reason for that is because when you do error, it's actually gonna stop the entire code. So, you know, use this when you need. But apart from that, that's basically types, and that is printing and warning and erroring. And that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new. And in the next video, we're gonna talk about variables, and it's kind of an interesting topic, and it helps you a lot too. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.